You ever wake up somewhere and realize something terrible almost happened, but for some reason it didn't? Not because you were lucky or smart or prepared, but because someone changed their mind. That's what haunts me most, not knowing why I was spared. I'm not the type who usually shares stuff like this, but what happened last year on the 4th of July, it's eaten away at me since. Maybe putting it into words will help me sleep again. So here goes. Just promise me if any of this sounds familiar, don't ignore it like we did. The night started with fireworks and ended with a black void I still can't explain. Let me back up. My name's Darren. I'm 33 now, live in Philadelphia, and work in sound production. But back then, July 4th last year, I was just tagging along with my cousin Marcus to this beach rave he'd helped organize in Maryland. Marcus had been blowing up in the underground EDM scene. Not famous, but people knew his name. He had pull. So when he said he was putting together a huge Independence Day bash right on the water with some insane talent, I didn't even hesitate. I needed a break. My girl had just moved out. Work was killing me, and a weekend with music, lights, and strangers sounded perfect. Marcus offered to let me ride with him and crash at the spot he and his crew rented for the weekend. So I tossed a bag in his trunk and off we went. The event was already in full swing. When we pulled up, the sun had barely started dipping, and there were hundreds of people packed into this beachside club, pulsing with light and bass. It was chaos in the best way. Loud, glittering chaos. Marcus vanished into organizer mode, barking into his walkie and checking lights and sound. I was left to wander. Free drinks, flashing strobes, beautiful people everywhere. The whole scene had this electric current running through it. I met up with another guy from our hometown, Ricky, and the two of us started drinking. Hard. I don't know if it was the humidity or the way the vodka went down like juice, but I got sloppy fast. Everything felt warm and fuzzy, like the world was hugging me. At some point, maybe around midnight, we met these two women. Tall, stunning. One had this silvery blue hair that didn't look real. The other wore all white like she was dressed for a ritual instead of a party. Their names, I think one was called Lila. The other, maybe Junie, I know how it sounds. Like a dream. But stay with me. They were the ones who offered us drinks. And yeah, I should have known better. I really should have. But when you're buzzed and flattered and lost in flashing lights, sometimes your brain takes a back seat. We toasted, we drank, and then they said, let's go somewhere quieter. I looked at Ricky. He shrugged. Why not? We followed the girls out the back gate of the club and onto a narrow path that cut through sand dunes. The air smelled like salt and cheap fireworks. I remember laughing at something Lila said, but honestly, I couldn't tell you what. My brain felt like it was stuffed with cotton. I started noticing something was off halfway down the beach. It wasn't the distance, the walk wasn't long. It wasn't even the quiet, though, that hit hard after hours of pounding bass. It was how my body started betraying me. First, it was my legs. They felt hollow, like walking on stilts made of paper. Then my arms, like they were hanging from strings. I tried to talk to Ricky, but I couldn't get the words out. He looked over at me once, eyes glassy, and just nodded slowly like he was underwater. I remember thinking, this isn't alcohol. This isn't normal. The house was huge. Not mansion huge, but old money huge. It was right on the shoreline with this wraparound porch and a tower off one side like a castle turret. We stepped through the back door and into silence. No voices, no music, just the ocean muffled and far. I don't remember much after that, just flashes, the smell of something sweet and sharp, a cold tile floor, Lila's voice whispering something I couldn't understand. Ricky's laugh, slow, delayed, almost robotic. Then darkness. Not sleep. Just gone. I came to sometime after dawn, lying in wet grass. I was freezing. My shirt was gone. My pants weren't mine. My wallet and phone gone. And worst of all, I had no memory, not even fragments. I staggered to the road and flagged down a trucker who looked more afraid of me than I was of him. I must have looked like hell. He gave me a ride to a gas station where I begged to borrow a phone. I called Marcus. He didn't pick up. I called my sister. She did. And when I told her what happened when I started piecing it together, I broke down right there in the middle of that gas station, sobbing and shaking like a child. Marcus finally called back an hour later. He sounded half asleep and panicked, asking where the hell I'd been. I could barely explain. Every time I tried, my own voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Eventually, he stopped asking questions and just said, "Stay put. I'm coming to get you." When he pulled up in that old Lexus of his, I almost collapsed. I looked at him, his face frozen, confused, and said, "Ricky's missing." But Ricky wasn't missing. He showed up at another gas station 20 minutes later. Same condition, different town, same blank spots in memory, same weird clothes, no phone, no wallet, just shoes that didn't fit. It was like someone had taken us apart and put us back together wrong. We rode in silence for most of the trip back. The music festival was still going strong, thousands of people laughing and dancing like nothing had happened. I remember watching them from the window and thinking, none of you have any idea what's going on in the shadows of your fun. That night back at Marcus's rental, Ricky and I sat outside with the porch light off and tried to piece it together. We made a list: the drinks, the walk, the house, the blackout, the clothes, and the weirdest part, the texts. Yeah. While we were gone, someone had used our phones. I checked mine. There were messages sent to people I hadn't spoken to in weeks. Co-workers, exes, even my landlord. All of them. Normal. Too normal. Like a bot was pretending to be me and almost pulling it off. That's when it hit me. Whoever did this didn't want to hurt us. They wanted to be us. Even now, that thought makes my skin crawl. 3 days later, Ricky called me. He said he'd found the house. I couldn't believe it. We had walked that beach in a daze, but something about the smell, the sound of the waves, the dune path, it triggered something. So he retraced it, carefully, sober this time. We drove back down together. I remember holding my breath the whole ride. And there it was. Same porch, same tower, same wraparound railing with chipped blue paint. It looked normal, lived in. There was even a kid's bike in the yard, a wind chime on the porch. We hesitated, then rang the bell. An old woman answered. She blinked at us like we were door-to-door salesmen and asked if we were looking for a donation. I asked if she knew anyone named Lila or Junie. She said no, said she'd lived there 15 years and didn't have kids. I tried to press gently, maybe someone had broken in. Maybe something happened here on the 4th. She laughed. You'd be surprised how often people ask me stuff like that. I asked what she meant. She said young men, lost ones. They always come asking about girls that aren't real. I remember the way she said that, not sarcastic, not judgmental, like she believed it, like she'd seen it before. We walked back to the car in silence. I don't know what Ricky was thinking, but me, I felt like we'd seen something we weren't supposed to, that we'd brushed up against a part of the world that slips between the cracks. Not ghosts, not demons, just something that wears human faces and waits for someone dumb enough to walk into its trap. And on the 4th of July, it caught us, whatever it was. Funny thing is, that wasn't even the scariest 4th of July I've heard. You think getting drugged and waking up in someone else's clothes is bad? Try being hunted for miles down an empty road with no phone signal, no gas, and no one around for 20 miles. Because that's exactly what happened to my friend Tasha. And if she hadn't made one last-minute decision, she might not be here to tell the story. You ever get that feeling like someone's behind you, not just following you, but studying you, watching the way your car moves, the way your head tilts, like they already decided how it ends and they're just waiting for the right moment to move? Tasha said she'd felt that before. A couple times, but never like this. Tasha had just left a cookout in southern Tennessee. Nothing fancy. Paper plates, folding chairs, kids chasing each other with sparklers. The kind of thing that reminds you life can still feel normal sometimes. She stayed longer than planned, the kind of just one more drink night that turns into 2 hours of laughter. It was close to 10:30 when she finally got in her car, waved goodbye to her friends, and started the drive home. She lived 2 hours away across the border in northern Alabama. Most of the route was back roads, narrow, two-lane stretches wrapped in trees and silence. The kind of roads where even the moonlight seems afraid to follow. Tasha didn't mind. She liked the quiet. She rolled down the window, let the warm wind whip through her hair, and turned the radio to a low hum. Every so often, she'd pass a church, an empty cornfield, a gas station with all the lights off. It was peaceful, until it wasn't. About 40 minutes in, she noticed headlights in her rear view. At first, she didn't think much of it. Another late-night driver probably heading home from their own barbecue. But the longer the car stayed behind her, never gaining, never backing off, the more her hands tensed on the wheel. It was a dark gray sedan, a bit beat up. She thought it might be a Honda or a Nissan, hard to tell in the dark. But what stood out was the front bumper. It looked like it had been half ripped off. Every time they passed under a streetlight, she caught the glint of metal hanging loose. She slowed a little. The car slowed too. She sped up. It matched. That was the moment her stomach dropped. She wasn't being followed. She was being hunted. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe they lived nearby. Maybe they were just a nervous driver. But when she took a random right turn onto a gravel road, one she knew led nowhere but a row of shuttered barns, and the car followed without hesitation, her throat closed up. That was it. No more pretending. No more benefit of the doubt. She hit the gas. Dust kicked up behind her as the gravel crunched beneath her tires. The road twisted sharply around a pond, and she took it too fast, nearly clipping the edge. But the car behind her didn't slow. It followed steady and deliberate. Tasha's hands trembled on the wheel. She grabbed her phone, tried to call 911, but there was no signal, just a spinning wheel and a sick sense of isolation. Her gaslight came on. That little orange warning felt like a death sentence. She cursed, scanning the darkness for anything: a house, a sign of driveway. But all she saw were trees and more trees, black shapes leaning in like they were watching. The other car pulled closer. She could hear it now, the engine snarling, tires spitting gravel. It wasn't trying to pass. It was stalking her, waiting for her to make a mistake. Then she saw it. A flicker of light up ahead, pale green and buzzing. A gas station. She didn't hesitate. She took the turn too hard, skidded into the lot, and slammed the car into park. She threw open the door and sprinted inside. The man behind the counter blinked at her in confusion. But before she could say a word, the gray sedan rolled into the lot and stopped. No one got out. The engine idled. Then slowly it backed out and disappeared. I don't remember the drive back to Marcus's rental, but I remember the silence when I walked in. The guys were all crashed, sprawled across couches and sleeping bags, empty bottles everywhere. But not Marcus. He was sitting on the deck, staring out at the waves with this tight look on his face. When he saw me, he stood up fast. "Where the hell were you?" he said, like a parent who'd been waiting all night. "I don't know," I told him. "I think something happened." He listened as I told him everything: the drinks, the girls, the house, the blackout. When I got to the part about waking up in different clothes, his face went pale. "You're not the first," he said quietly. That's when he told me something I'll never forget. One of the DJs they'd booked for the previous show, a guy named Theo, had gone missing for a full day after partying with two women that matched the same vague descriptions. Blonde, tall, one with colored hair. He turned up in a laundromat bathroom 5 towns over, no phone, no cash, and no idea how he got there. Everyone had brushed it off as a bender gone wrong, but now it felt like a pattern. I tried calling Ricky again. Still nothing. I filed a report with local police, but it was like shouting into a void. They humored me for 10 minutes, asked if I was sure I hadn't just partied too hard, and then sent me on my way. That night, Marcus drove me to the edge of the boardwalk. We walked retracing every step I could remember, and when I saw that house again, I stopped cold. Same porch, same tower, same wraparound railing, but it looked wrong, like it hadn't been lived in for years. Windows dusty, mail piling up, a for sale sign half buried in the sand. We knocked anyway. No answer. We peeked through a side window. The inside looked bare, abandoned. No sculptures, no clean white tile, just dust and silence. But the weirdest part, there was a faint outline in the grass, like two bodies had been dragged away from the house through the dunes and into the trees. 2 days later, Ricky called me. He sounded hollow, not tired, not hungover, just empty. I asked him what happened. He paused for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then he said, "I woke up in someone's barn, bro. Like a real barn. Chickens and everything. I didn't know where I was. Took me half the day to find a town. My phone was gone. Wallet too. I was wearing scrubs." "Scrubs?" I asked. "Yeah, like hospital scrubs. Size XL. I don't even know how I got in them." He said he didn't remember anything past stepping into the house with Junie. No kisses, no drinks, just a sharp smell and then blank. He didn't file a report, said it felt pointless. I couldn't blame him. We talked a lot after that, compared notes, tried to figure out what could have happened. Every time we thought we were close to an answer, something didn't add up. Why drug us and not use our cards? Why take our phones only to ditch them together later? Why the outfit changes? Nothing made sense. Marcus eventually admitted he went back to that house alone a week later. The for sale sign was gone. So was the mail. And someone had power washed the porch. He knocked again. Still no answer. But he said the wind smelled the same sweet and sharp. Even now, a year later, I think about those girls. Lila with the fake silver hair. Junie in white. If I close my eyes, I can still hear her whispering. I don't know what they wanted from us. I don't know why they let us go. But I'm scared that next time, they won't. Some stories haunt you because of what happened. Mine haunts me because of what didn't. Turn time. You'd think after hearing something like that, I'd swear off July 4th plans forever. But fear has a funny way of finding people, especially when they least expect it. This next story comes from a woman named Raven, and what happened to her, well, let's just say it started with a long drive home and ended with a reason to never trust an empty road again. I never like driving at night. It's not the dark exactly, it's the silence. The way the trees lean in when no one's around, like they're listening, watching. But I told myself I'd be fine. 2.5 hours straight shot. What could go wrong? My name's Raven, and this happened 2 summers ago after a 4th of July party in central Alabama. My best friend Tasha had moved into this farmhouse, outside town, big yard, fireworks, red Solo cups everywhere. It was a good time. Too good maybe. I stayed late, helped clean up, and when I finally said goodbye, it was pushing 10:30. I remember her giving me this weird look and saying, "You sure you don't want to just crash here?" I laughed. "I'll be fine. I got podcasts and coffee. What could happen if only I'd known?" The first hour of the drive was easy. Just me, some true crime playing low windows, cracked stars overhead. But the farther I got from town, the quieter everything became. No lights, no cars, just road. Then I noticed headlights in my mirror. At first I didn't think twice. Just someone else headed east. But they didn't pass, didn't slow down, didn't turn, just stayed. Right behind me, 6 car lengths, same exact distance. No matter how I sped up or slowed down, that's when I knew they were following me. I tried to stay calm. It could have been nothing, I told myself. Just a car headed the same way. Maybe they didn't like passing at night. But when I turned off onto a random side road, a dirt stretch leading to a dead-end loop, with maybe 4 houses they followed. No hesitation. That's when my hands started shaking. This wasn't coincidence. It wasn't random. Someone was locked onto me. The road curved tight past thick trees. I pressed the gas and took another left back onto a smaller road I didn't recognize, hoping to lose them. But every time I turned, they turned too. I thought about stopping, letting them pass. But my gut screamed not to, that if I pulled over, it'd be over. And then the worst thing happened. That stupid little bell. Bing, low fuel. I'd meant to fill up before leaving the party, but I forgot in all the cleanup. And now the needle was dropping. Panic bubbled in my throat. My car's a 2010 Civic. When the light comes on, I've got maybe 20 miles, sometimes less. I grab my phone, hands trembling, and search for the nearest gas station. 11 miles. Too far. But I had to try. I floored it. I was doing 70 on a back road barely meant for 50. The trees were a blur. My hands ached from gripping the wheel. Behind me, the car never backed off. Same distance. Like it was tethered to me. I took one final turn, nearly missed it. A glowing green sign blinked into view. 24-hour fuel. I almost cried. I pulled into the station, hard and fast, parked crooked, yanked the keys, and ran inside. The guy behind the counter looked up startled. I slammed the door behind me and tried to catch my breath. There's someone following me, I managed to say, chest heaving. He squinted past me through the window. The gray sedan was idling at the edge of the lot, headlights on. It didn't move, didn't park, didn't leave. Just sat there. Want me to call the sheriff, he asked. I nodded. While he picked up the phone, I crouched behind a rack of candy, peeking out. After maybe 20 seconds, the car peeled off. No plate lights, no signal, just gone. I never saw the driver, not even a silhouette. It was like they were watching me. And once they knew I was somewhere safe, they lost interest. But I didn't feel safe. I felt hunted. I stayed in that gas station for over an hour. The sheriff never showed. The guy behind the counter kept checking the lot, offering to make more calls. But once the car vanished, it was like the danger had evaporated into thin air. Eventually, I filled my tank, got back in my car, and drove home every mile, feeling longer than the last. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't tell anyone either. What was I supposed to say? Hey, someone might have wanted to hurt me, but they changed their mind. It sounded crazy, paranoid, but I never shook the feeling. Like I'd been marked, like someone out there still had their eyes on me. Weeks passed, and then it happened. I was folding laundry with the news on in the background, not paying attention until I heard the words, armed robbery and attempted kidnapping in Calhoun County. Suspects believed to be traveling in a stolen gray sedan. I looked up. The footage was grainy, a gas station's security still. But the shape of the car, the mud-caked bottom, it was the same one. I knew it in my bones. The newscaster mentioned the car was last seen heading east, the same direction I'd driven that night. My stomach dropped. They'd been hunting, and I was almost their next mistake. But I made it home, and now I never drive alone at night. Not without a full tank and a loaded glove box, just in case. I think what messes with me most is how normal it all felt at first. The music, the laughter, the way Lila smiled like she'd known me forever. The way Junie looked straight into your soul without blinking. There was no warning, no red flag big enough to stop us. I replay that walk down the beach in my head sometimes. Not because I remember it, but because I don't. I want to remember something, anything, a clue, a sound, a voice, but it's just blank. The memory ends like someone pressed mute on my brain. And no matter how hard I try to rewind, all I get is static. I've had people tell me I just got too drunk, that I blacked out, that it was all probably innocent. But here's the thing. I know my limits. I know what a blackout feels like. It's never clean. It's never total. This was different. This was like someone unplugged me. And when I came back online, I wasn't even me anymore. Not in my own clothes, not in my own head, not even in the right city. That changes a person. You start to second guess everything. Every laugh, every stranger's kindness, every late night text from someone you don't quite remember meeting. That's the real horror. Not knowing if it'll happen again, or if it already has. I wish I could say I moved on, but something in me shifted that night. Like my world tilted just a few degrees off center, not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough that I always feel it. Even now when I drive, I check the rearview mirror more than the road. I never sit with my back to a window, and every time I pull into a gas station, I scan for that shape, a gray car with muddy fenders, headlights too bright, just watching. Sometimes I tell myself, maybe they really weren't after me. Maybe they were just weird. Maybe they turned because they were lost. Maybe they sat outside the station because they were scared too. But then I see that footage in my head, that blurry freeze frame on the news, and all the maybes collapse. I was in their path, and something luck timing gut instinct kept me out of their hands. Barely. There's a version of the story where I never made it to that gas station, where my face ends up on the evening news instead of theirs. And that version of the story, it plays on loop in my head every time July rolls around. A few months after it happened, I tried to move on. I threw myself back into work, avoided parties, even stopped drinking for a while. But the questions wouldn't let me rest, so I started digging. At first, just casually reverse image searching pictures I'd taken that night, trying to find anyone else who'd seen those girls. Lila, Junie, whatever their names really were. But there were no posts, no tags, no mentions. It was like they'd never existed. I even tried looking up local Airbnb listings, thinking maybe we'd ended up in a legit rental. No dice. Nothing matched the layout I remembered. No house on that block even looked like it. Eventually, I tracked down one of the venue staff from that night, a bartender named Vince who'd helped close out the event. I asked him if he'd seen us leave with anyone, if he remembered those girls. He stared at me a second too long, then shook his head. Nope, he said. Didn't see anything, but I could tell he was lying. He knew something, and I think he was scared. That's when I stopped asking questions. Because if someone like Vince, a guy built like a linebacker covered in tats, was afraid to talk, maybe I didn't want the answers after all. Sometimes I wonder why they didn't come after me. I mean, they had every chance. I was alone, isolated. I panicked and pulled into the only lit spot for miles, and they still drove away. Why did they lose their nerve? Were they spooked by the gas station clerk, or were they never after me? At all? I hate that thought, that maybe I just wasn't the one they wanted. Like I was a coin toss. A maybe, a test run. It messes with your head thinking you almost became a headline, and worse, knowing someone else might have. After that night, I started watching the news like it was my job. Every story about missing women, every strange encounter, I latched onto it, looking for patterns, for closure, but it never came. Only more questions, more cars behind me that felt too close, more nights I couldn't sleep without a light on. That's the real damage. Not the event itself, but the version of you it leaves behind. The version that never fully relaxes. The one that still checks over her shoulder, even in daylight. Ricky changed after that night. Not in any obvious way. He still showed up to work, still cracked jokes. But there was a tightness in him that hadn't been there before. He started carrying a pocket knife everywhere, took down all his social media, refused to go out after dark. Once a few weeks later, I asked him if he remembered anything. A sound, a name, even a smell. He just shook his head. I remember the tile was cold, he said, and someone humming, real soft, like a lullaby. That line stuck with me. humming, cold tile, like a hospital or a morgue. I didn't press him. What was the point? Some nights I still get flashes, not memories, but more like impressions. A doorway framed in pale light. A girl's voice saying, "Not him." The sensation of lying down and not being able to move. And once I swear I heard that same humming in a dream. Faint, wrong, like it didn't belong to a person. I woke up in a cold sweat, checked my phone. It was 3:33 a.m. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. It's wild how one night can split your life into a before and after. Before that drive, I never thought twice about stopping at a rest stop, rolling the windows down, driving with music loud and the world wide open. Now I keep pepper spray on my keychain. I take the long way home if it means staying near civilization. I don't just lock my doors, I double check them. Every time. And still, some nights I wake up drenched in sweat because I swore I saw headlights in my window. Sometimes I wonder what I would have done differently if I had turned down Tasha's offer to stay the night. If I had left earlier, or later, or if I hadn't stopped at that one gas station. But the truth is, I think something was going to happen no matter what. It felt planned. Not like I was chosen, but like I'd wandered into something already in motion, like stepping into someone else's nightmare mid-scene. And when they saw I didn't fit the part, they let me go. But I can't shake the feeling that the nightmare's still out there, waiting, just off the road, where the trees lean in and listen. Waking up that morning wasn't like waking from sleep. It was like surfacing from the bottom of a lake, slow, blurry, and suffocating. My lungs didn't burn, but something inside me felt starved, like I hadn't breathed in hours. At first, all I saw were leaves, bright green leaves overhead, sun streaming through. My cheek was pressed into damp dirt. My hands were cold. I didn't recognize the trees. Then the pain hit, not sharp, but dull and heavy like I'd been tossed around. My shoulder ached. My neck was stiff. My knees were scraped like I'd fallen or been dragged. It took everything I had just to sit up. And that's when I noticed the clothes. Baggy jeans, 2 sizes too big. A hoodie with a logo I didn't recognize. Pockets empty. No phone. No wallet. No keys. My mouth was dry, and my tongue felt thick like I'd been drugged or worse. For a minute, I thought maybe it was a prank, that Marcus or Ryan was going to jump out laughing, holding a camera. But no one came. Just birdsong, wind, and the distant sound of a highway I couldn't see. I was alone, utterly terrifyingly alone. I did eventually tell someone. It was a month later after the news story aired. I was sitting on my aunt's porch watching her dogs run through the grass, and I just said it, told her everything. She listened, quiet like she always is. And when I was done, she nodded and said that roads always had shadows. I asked her what she meant, but she just shook her head. Said folks out here don't like to talk about things that don't have names. That night, she handed me an old flip phone and said, "Keep this in your glove box, just in case your real one goes missing." I didn't ask how she knew that was even a possibility. I didn't want to know. After that, I started paying more attention to the weird little stories on the local feeds. Woman disappears after flat tire near Choctaw Trail. Man found wandering without ID near fire tower. Always brushed off, always explained away. But I see it now. I wasn't the first, and I'm scared I won't be the last. Later that year, I read an article about memory suppression. Not the kind where your brain forgets trauma naturally, but the kind where it's helped along. Chemicals, hypnosis, disruption of memory encoding. It stuck with me. What if whatever they gave us didn't just knock us out? What if it erased things? What if there's more that happened, buried somewhere in the folds of our minds? I brought it up to Ricky once. He went quiet, then said, "I've had dreams, man, real weird ones." Like what he hesitated. Like walking into a room that doesn't exist. All white, a table, people in masks, and one of them's humming. There it was again. That humming. The same detail from both our minds. I didn't know what to say. We weren't conspiracy guys. We weren't into aliens or cults or government experiments. But that night broke rules we didn't even know existed. And if someone had the ability to make us forget, what else had they done? What else had they taken? I started dreaming about roads, not normal dreams, not the kind where you wake up and forget them. These stuck, burned in. I'd be driving alone, same as that night. Same tree-lined road, but the signs were all wrong, bent, backwards. One had no writing at all, just a symbol I didn't understand, a ring with a slit down the center. And behind me, always headlights, always following. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, reaching for the knife I kept under my pillow. Some nights the dream changed. I wasn't in the car anymore. I was standing on the roadside watching myself drive by, and the car behind me, it slowed, rolled down a window, but I never saw the driver. Never. My therapist said it was PTSD, that my brain was trying to process threat, fear, and escape. But deep down, I felt it was more than that. Like my subconscious was trying to remember something that hadn't happened yet, a warning or a countdown. Either way, I stopped sleeping through the night, and I haven't taken that route home since. I did something I'm not proud of. A few months after everything, when the dreams got worse and the gaps in my memory still felt like gaping wounds, I went to a psychic. Not because I believed in that stuff. I didn't. Still don't really. But I was desperate. She lived in a crumbling duplex with wind chimes on every door. Her name was Elsie. She didn't ask questions, just sat me down, held my hands, and said, "You were taken." I froze. "Not by aliens," she added. "Not like that. But someone took something from you. A memory, maybe more." She said my energy was scattered, that parts of me were still missing, like chunks of a puzzle lost behind a couch. I asked her if they'd ever come back. She looked me in the eye and said, "Do you want them to?" That question still haunts me, because the truth is, I don't know. Maybe forgetting was the only mercy I was given. Maybe remembering would destroy me. I tried posting about it once. Late one night, still shaken from a dream, I typed it all out. A full Reddit thread, R no sleep, R true crime. I didn't care. I just wanted someone to see it, to say me too. But all I got were jokes. One comment said I should sell the rights to Netflix. Another accused me of making it up for karma. The post got buried, no messages. No one asked for more. That silence hurt worse than anything else, because now it felt like I was carrying this alone, like even the internet full of conspiracy lovers and horror fans didn't want to touch it. I deleted the post the next morning, but I never stopped checking. Every week I searched for keywords gray sedan, stalked Alabama road. I scroll through police reports and news snippets like it's a part-time job. I don't know what I'm looking for anymore. Maybe closure, maybe confirmation, maybe just someone else to say I believe you. Because most days, I barely believe myself. The worst part is what it's done to the way I see people. Before that night, I used to believe most strangers were harmless, that the world wasn't out to get me, that people, even weird ones, were just doing their own thing. Not anymore. Now I scan every room I walk into. I clock exits. I memorize faces. I watch how people move, who they talk to, what they carry. I can't help it. It's automatic. I see women who remind me of Lila and Junie, and my whole body tenses. One time at a bar in Brooklyn, I saw a woman in a white dress offer a guy a drink. I watched him take it. I almost said something. I wanted to, but I froze. Who would believe me? "Hey, don't drink," that she reminds me of someone who maybe kidnapped me once, so I left. I never saw what happened, but I think about that guy all the time. I hope he made it home. I hope he doesn't have a story like mine. I started doing little things to feel safer, like checking my tires before every drive, taking photos of gas station license plates, setting fake calls to trigger if I didn't hit stop in 15 minutes. I even made a checklist: car locked, gas tank full, phone charged, emergency contact notified, route shared. Every single time, friends joked that I was turning into my mom, overprepared, overthinking, but they didn't see the fear under my skin. They didn't hear how quiet the road gets after 11 p.m. They didn't smell the sweat on my palms when a car stays too close for too long. They didn't watch the news and wonder, what if that was almost me? I know it sounds dramatic, but once you realize how close the edge really is, you never stop bracing for the fall. Never. There's a liquor store near my apartment. I used to go there all the time, nothing special about it. Fluorescent lights, dusty shelves, the usual. Then one day I saw a bottle that looked exactly like the one Gianna handed me that night. Same label, same bright red cap. And just like that, I was back on the beach. The wind, the cold sand, the numbness creeping up my spine. I dropped the bottle. It shattered and the sound made everyone turn. I apologized, said I slipped, but inside I was unraveling. I went home and sat on the floor for 2 hours, didn't speak, didn't eat, just sat there shaking. It's those little things that get you, not the big moments, not the missing time, not even the dreams. It's the ordinary stuff: a scent, a sound, a glance that yanks the curtain back, and suddenly you're not safe anymore. You're never really safe. You're just unaware until you're not. 6 months passed. People stopped asking how I was. I stopped offering the truth. Every now and then I'd get a call from Tasha. "You doing okay?" And I'd lie. "Yeah, all good." Because what else was I supposed to say? That I jump every time someone walks too close behind me, that I sometimes take 3 turns off a highway just to make sure no one's following, that I wake up at 4 a.m. because I think I heard tires on gravel. One night I called the police because I saw a gray car idling at the end of my street. They came. It was a neighbor's son waiting to pick up his girlfriend. No crime, no intent. Just me and my nerves. Again. After that, I stopped calling, but I never stopped watching. And every time July gets close, something tightens in my chest, like the road remembers. And it's waiting for me to forget just once. I stopped using Face ID on my phone. Something about it started creeping me out. It's not like I thought the phone was spying on me, not exactly. But sometimes when I looked into the camera, I felt like I wasn't the one looking. Like it was looking through me. Same with mirrors. I moved my bedroom mirror into the closet after I woke up one night and thought I saw someone else's reflection. I was alone. Wasn't dreaming. At least, I don't think I was. My therapist says it's trauma, that my brain is creating ghosts out of stress. But what if she's wrong? What if trauma doesn't create ghosts? What if it just makes you see the ones that were always there? I started putting tape over my webcam, leaving my lights on at night, keeping the closet door shut tight. Not because I'm scared of what's in there, but because I'm scared something might come out. And I wouldn't remember it in the morning, just like before. I've had chances to tell people in real life. Co-workers, neighbors, even a guy I was kind of seeing for a while, but I never did. Because how do you say I think I was nearly abducted by someone who never left their car? How do you explain the kind of fear that doesn't leave bruises, just echoes? The guy I dated noticed something was off, said I was jumpy, that I locked my doors too much, asked why I kept a crowbar in the passenger footwell. I told him it was just in case. He laughed. We didn't last long. After a while, I realized people only want to hear scary stories when they're not real. When they are, when someone says, "This happened to me," and I still don't know why they don't want to hear it, it makes things too real, too close. And the truth is, most people would rather stay asleep, even if they're dreaming next to danger. Sometimes I wonder if more people were in on it. Not the kidnapping, if that's even what it was, but the aftermath, the silence. That bartender, Vince, he definitely knew something. And Marcus, I hate thinking it, but why didn't he ask more questions? Why did he let it drop so easily? If our places had been swapped, I'd be tearing the place apart for answers. There was one night, maybe 6 months later, where he came by for drinks. I brought it up, said I couldn't let it go. He got real quiet. Then he said, maybe that's the point. What is maybe you're not supposed to get answers? Maybe you're just supposed to stop asking. It chilled me. Not because it was cryptic, because it sounded rehearsed, like someone else had said it to him before, like it was a line. I haven't talked to him since. I don't think I want to know which side he's on. The weirdest part is how normal life keeps going. People laugh, make plans, talk about concerts and weddings and grocery runs like nothing ever happens in the dark. Like monsters only exist on TV. Sometimes I feel like I'm on the other side of a glass wall, watching the world live, but not really in it. There was a time when I loved long drives, silence, the way the highway curved at night. Now even short errands leave me tense. I scan rearview mirrors like they hold secrets. I memorize plate numbers, just in case. There's a file in my desk labeled, if something happens. Inside is everything: passwords, emergency contacts, a copy of my story printed out, just in case it disappears online. I know that sounds paranoid, but it makes me feel prepared. Because if the road comes for me again, I don't want to vanish quietly. I want people to know I was here. I saw it, and I was afraid. Every time I try to wrap my head around what happened, I run into a wall. Not a metaphorical one, a real mental block. Like my brain physically refuses to go deeper. I used to think I just needed more time, that eventually the memories would return, that a smell, a sound, a detail would click something loose. But now I'm not so sure I want them back. Because what if I'm not missing hours? What if I'm missing days? What if I'm missing something about myself? The guy I was before that night, he was carefree, chill, maybe even a little reckless. The guy I am now, I watch shadows for movement. I sleep with a light on. I flinch when people touch me unexpectedly. Something shifted inside me. Something left. Or something got in. And some nights when I lie awake staring at the ceiling, I think, what if I didn't survive that night? What if the part of me that mattered never came back? Some nights I wonder if I'll ever get answers. Not dramatic ones. Not closure with a capital C. Just something. A reason, a face, a name. Anything to make it real or at least explainable. Because right now it lives in this strange place, too specific to ignore, too vague to prove. It's not a headline. It's not a crime report. It's just me and a memory I didn't ask for. And even that memory is more of a feeling, a heaviness, a presence. Sometimes I still check the news hoping someone else tells a story that sounds like mine. Sometimes I hope I never see one. Because if I do, that means they're still out there. And next time, maybe the gas station's closed. Or the victim's not me. And maybe they don't get away. I want to believe I was lucky, but more and more, I think I was just first. I've started writing things down. Not because I think I'll forget, but because I worry I already have. Little things. A weird smell. A shadow that felt wrong. A dream fragment I couldn't shake. I keep them in a notebook by my bed. Sometimes I wake up and flip through the pages like I'm reading someone else's journal. One entry just says, "Don't trust the quiet ones." Another, "Check the basement. Check the beach." I don't remember writing either. Maybe I was half asleep. Maybe I was dreaming. But what if I wasn't? What if some part of me, the part that remembers, only comes out when I'm not fully here? It's a terrifying thought that my brain might be hiding truths from me. But worse than that, maybe it's doing it on purpose. Because some truths are too sharp to hold on to. And if I ever remember all of it, I don't think I'll survive the knowing. I don't tell this story to scare people. I tell it because I need it to exist somewhere outside my head. Because silence is where these things thrive. I still don't know what they wanted. Maybe they were just testing boundaries, seeing how far they could push before someone pushed back. Or maybe they weren't planning anything at all until they saw someone alone. That's the scariest part. How random it felt. No build-up, no warning, just one wrong turn. And I wasn't safe anymore. And yet I made it. By luck, by instinct, or something else entirely, I got away. I hold on to that. Because fear is a weight, and if I carry it too long, it becomes who I am. But survival is sharp. It cuts through the fog. It reminds me I still have choices, and I choose to tell this, even if no one listens, especially then. There's one image I can't get out of my head. A hallway, long, white, sterile, lit by soft overhead lights that hum like a refrigerator. The floor is too clean, the air too still. I see it sometimes when I close my eyes like a still frame burned into film. I've never been in a place like that, except maybe I have. Once after one of those dreams, I woke up with a small red mark on the inside of my bicep. Perfect circle, no bruise, no soreness. Just there, gone by the next day. I took a photo, but later when I checked my camera roll, it wasn't there. I asked Ricky if he'd ever found anything weird on himself. He paused, then said, back of my neck. Twice. Same spot. We didn't talk about it again. We didn't have to. We both knew what we didn't want to know, that something happened in that house, and some part of it is still happening. I thought about going back, just once. Same route, same time, same everything. I even mapped it out, pinned every stop I made that night, right down to the gas station. Something inside me needed to see it all again, not because I wanted to relive it, but because part of me still wondered if I'd imagined the whole thing. Trauma does that. It bends reality, leaves gaps, fills silence with echo. I packed a bag, phone, flashlight, extra charger, knife, voice recorder. I was going to document everything, but when I reached the end of my driveway, I couldn't start the car. Not because I was scared of what I'd find, but because I was scared I wouldn't find anything. No proof, no footprints, no memory triggers. Just an empty road that didn't remember me. And somehow, that would have been worse. A week after I stopped talking to Marcus, I found something weird on my windshield. It was just a napkin, plain white, folded neatly, wedged under the wiper like a parking ticket. I almost threw it away, but something stopped me. Inside in blue ink was a single hand-drawn symbol, a circle split down the middle with two dots above it. That's all. No words, no explanation. But I'd seen it before in a dream I couldn't place on a door I couldn't open. I took a photo, checked for cameras, walked the whole block. Nothing. When I showed it to Ricky, his face went pale. He didn't say anything, just nodded once and told me to burn it. I did, but the next morning, drawn in condensation on the inside of my window, was the same symbol. This time, no napkin, no ink, just presence, like a signature or a warning. Some nights I still feel it, that pressure, like someone's eyes are on me just out of view, watching from across the street, or maybe from the end of the hallway. Not close, just present. Sometimes I check, pull back the curtain, look behind the house, scan the driveway. Nothing. But the feeling doesn't go away. It's like they left something behind. Not a device, not a bug. Just a thread, a connection I didn't consent to stretch, taut and invisible. And when the wind shifts just right, I swear I can feel it tug. I've thought about moving, starting over, deleting everything. New name, new town. But something tells me that wouldn't help. This isn't about location. It's about memory, about attention. They noticed me once. And maybe that's all it takes. Maybe that's all it ever takes. Lately, I've been wondering, what if the things I do remember aren't real? Not the blackout, I'm sure that happened, but the flashes, the girls' names, the drinks, the house. What if they're just scaffolding memories given to me to cover something else? What if the people I trusted that night, Ryan, Marcus, even the staff, what if they were part of it and I just didn't know? What if I was meant to forget more? I've heard of implanted memories. It's not just sci-fi. Under enough suggestion, enough influence, your brain will make things up to fill in blanks. That terrifies me because it means the things I'm clinging to, the puzzle pieces I keep trying to fit together, might not be real pieces at all. Just distractions, planted to keep me from asking better questions. And if that's true, then I'm not just missing time, I'm missing truth. And that's worse, far worse. I've started watching people more closely, not in a paranoid way, at least I don't think so. Just curious. I'll be in line at a coffee shop and someone behind me will fidget too much. Glance over their shoulder 3 times. Look at their phone but not swipe. And I'll wonder, do they know? Did something happen to them too? Not the same thing, but something close. Something dark, something wordless. Because people don't talk about what breaks them. Not really. They say it's been a rough year or I'm just tired and we let that pass. We don't ask more. We let them go quiet. But I've started seeing that quiet differently. I think a lot of us are carrying things no one wants to hear. I think a lot of us are just waiting for someone else to speak first. And I guess this is me speaking first. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd said no, if I hadn't taken that drink, if I hadn't followed those girls down the beach, if I just stayed at the bar or gone back to the Airbnb like I planned. Would I still be the same person? Would I still trust people the way I used to? I guess I'll never know. What I do know is this: I survived something I'll never fully understand. And survival, as it turns out, doesn't always come with peace. It comes with questions. It comes with silence. It comes with nights where you stare at the ceiling and wonder what almost happened. And some nights you wonder if it still could. But I'm still here, still trying to sleep, still chasing answers I may never get. And if you've been through something like this, something that no one believes or no one wants to hear, I believe you. You're not alone, even in the silence, especially then. Sometimes I imagine finding them, not revenge, not violence, just truth. I picture a room, fluorescent light, one of them sitting in a chair calm as ever, maybe smiling, and me standing there finally able to ask everything that's haunted me since that night. Why me? What was the point? Was it random or did you choose me for a reason? But in every version of the fantasy, they don't answer. They just stare. Like the questions don't matter. Like I'm not the first or the last. Like I was just practice. And that's when I realize I don't want answers. I want it to have never happened. I want to go back to the version of me who never had to look over her shoulder, who never kept a weapon by the bed, who didn't dream in static and headlights. But she's gone, and I'm all that's left. A few weeks ago, I joined an online forum. Not the creepy ones, not conspiracy stuff, just a support group for people who've experienced unexplained trauma. The rules are strict. No speculation, no hunting for villains, just stories, just listening. I posted mine, the whole thing, the drive, the car, the hands, the silence, the escape, and I got messages, private ones, simple ones. I believe you. Something similar happened to me. You're not crazy. Some people didn't say anything. They just sent a heart emoji or a firefly. I didn't get it at first. Then someone told me fireflies show up when the dark gets too quiet, and that stuck with me. Now when I can't sleep, I imagine them little pulses of light scattered across the map. People like me, still here, still glowing, even if nobody else sees it. If I could write a letter to the me from before that night, I think I'd keep it short. No warnings, no instructions. Just this: some things won't make sense for a long time. That's okay. Keep breathing. I think about that version of me, often the girl with music too loud in the car, always speeding a little on open roads thinking danger was something you could spot in time to brake. She wasn't stupid. She wasn't careless. She just didn't know yet that horror doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like a man in a hat. Sometimes it looks like nothing at all. And I wish I could hug her, tell her she'll get through it, that she won't be the same, but she'll still be here, still fighting, still watching the dark, and glowing anyway. Healing isn't a straight line. It's not a sunrise. It's more like fog shifting unpredictable, sometimes thicker when you think it should be gone. Some days I forget, not the whole thing, just the weight of it. I go to the grocery store, hum a song, laugh at a dumb meme, and for a second I feel light. Then a car backfires or someone touches my shoulder without warning, and it all rushes back. That's the part no one tells you. Surviving doesn't mean it's over. It just means you're in the next phase, the long one, the quiet one, the part with more questions than flashbacks. But I've started to see beauty in that phase, in the not knowing, in the trying anyway, in the way I still flinch, but also still show up, still hope, still tell the story, even when I don't want to, even when it hurts. Especially then. I used to think safety was a place, a locked door, a street light, a friend on the phone. But now I think safety is more fragile than that. It's a feeling, and feelings can lie. They lied to me that night. They told me everything was fine, that I was just being dramatic, that I'd had one too many drinks and should laugh it off. I almost listened, and I still wonder how close I came to not making it out. A different turn, a slower reaction, one more second of doubt, and this story wouldn't exist. I would have disappeared. Just another girl who vanished without a trace on a summer night. But I didn't. I'm still here. So maybe safety isn't a place or a feeling. Maybe it's a decision, the one you make in the middle of the chaos when you choose to fight, to run, to live. And maybe that's enough. The truth is, I don't think I'll ever get closure. Not the kind people talk about in books or therapy. Not the neat little bow that ties the nightmare up and makes it all make sense. This story doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit in a box. It doesn't end with justice or resolution. It ends with survival. And maybe that has to be enough. I still lock my doors 3 times. I still check my rearview mirror twice before pulling out of the driveway. I still sleep with a flashlight on the nightstand and a metal rod tucked behind the curtain. Not because I'm scared every second, but because I've accepted that fear is part of the deal now. It's a passenger. It rides with me, but it doesn't drive. Not anymore. And that for me is what survival looks like. Not fearless, but still moving. Always. Last week, I tried something new. I recorded my voice. Just talking. No script. No filter. Just me telling the story out loud for the first time. I thought I'd delete it right after. But I didn't. Because something shifted when I heard myself say the words. Like they belonged to me again. Like I was reclaiming them from the silence. I uploaded it to a private drive. Shared it with one person. She messaged me the next day. Said she cried while listening. Said she felt less alone. Said she might try recording her own. And that's when I realized the story wasn't just mine anymore. It never was. It belonged to all of us. Everyone who's ever run when no one else saw the danger. Everyone who's kept breathing when the world wanted them silent. We're not loud, but we echo, and echoes travel. Now, when I walk into a crowded place, I look differently. Not with suspicion, with curiosity. I wonder who else carries stories like mine. Who else survived something unspeakable? There's no sign, no badge, no handshake, but sometimes you just know. It's in the way someone scans exits before sitting down, or how they pause before answering a simple question, like they're gauging how much truth the room can handle. These aren't victims. They're veterans, not of war, but of silence. And now that I've spoken, now that I've dared to be heard, I see them everywhere. We don't need to say much, just a glance, a nod, a moment of eye contact that says, you too. Yeah, me too. It's not everything, but it's enough. Enough to keep going. Enough to remind me I'm not the only one glowing in the dark. So if you're listening to this, really listening, and something in your chest feels tight or familiar or hard to name, you're not broken. You're not crazy. You're just awake. Awake to the kind of world most people never have to see. Awake to the way danger sometimes hides in normalcy. Awake to the truth that not all stories end, some just echo, quietly reshaping you every time they resurface. I don't know your story, but I believe it matters. And if no one else has told you yet, I'm proud of you for surviving, for waking up, for staying. You didn't have to, but you did. And somewhere in some quiet room, someone just like you is listening, waiting, hoping to feel a little less alone. Let this be that moment. Let this be your echo. I used to think my story ended that night, that everything after was just aftermath, debris, consequence, noise. But that's not true. The story didn't end. It shifted. It became something else. I'm not the girl who went to that party anymore. Not the girl who hesitated when things felt wrong. Not the girl who kept quiet because she didn't want to ruin the vibe. I'm different now. Sharper, slower to trust, quicker to leave. But I'm also braver because I've lived through something designed to make me disappear, and I didn't. I'm still here, still writing, still speaking, still choosing every single day to be present in a world that once tried to erase me. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not erasing the pain, but choosing not to vanish with it. Last month, I drove that road again, the one where it all started. I didn't plan to. It just happened. I took a wrong turn after visiting a friend, and suddenly there it was, that long stretch of pavement, that crooked guardrail, that same eerie silence. For a moment I froze. Every nerve in my body screamed to turn around, but I didn't. I slowed down, rolled the windows down, let the wind in, and I listened. To the trees, to the asphalt under my tires, to the beat of my heart. It didn't feel safe, but it didn't feel cursed anymore either. It just felt like a place where something happened. And I think that's important, because when a place stops feeling like a wound and starts feeling like a memory, even a painful one, that's when you know you're healing. I told my sister, not everything, but enough. We were sitting on the porch. The sky was pink, the air thick with the smell of cut grass and charcoal. She was talking about something small, laundry or groceries or her neighbor's barking dog, and I just interrupted. I need to tell you something. She looked at me like she already knew it wasn't casual. I spoke carefully, paused a lot, left out certain pieces, but I gave her the shape of it, the fear, the silence, the night that won't let go. When I finished, she didn't say anything right away, just reached over and held my hand. And that was it. No questions, no advice, just presence. And somehow that was enough. Sometimes healing doesn't sound like a speech. Sometimes it sounds like nothing, like breath, like weightlifting, like someone just sitting with you in the dark. I started writing it all down. Not just the story, but the patterns, the signs, the little things I wish I'd noticed sooner. Like how he never blinked when he smiled, or how the second car always stayed 2 lengths behind, or how my stomach dropped before my mind could explain why. I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm trying to make a map, because if someone like me finds themselves on a road they don't recognize, I want them to know they're not lost. They're not alone. They're following footsteps, mine. And maybe if they walk fast enough, maybe if they trust that gut feeling and veer off the path just in time, they won't need a story like mine. They'll just go home, turn on the lights, and never realize how close the darkness came. That's the goal. Silence, but the safe kind. 2 nights ago, I got a message from a stranger. She found my story on that forum, said it felt too close, said she'd had a night like mine, different details, same dread. She was still stuck in the part where you don't know if it was real, don't know if you're overreacting, don't know if anyone will believe you. I didn't have answers, but I typed anyway. Told her I believed her, told her that confusion is part of survival, told her that fear is loud but truth is steady. She didn't reply right away, but the next morning she did. Still here, she wrote. That was it. 2 words. No punctuation, just breath on a screen. And I felt it, like a match lit in a cave. Small, brief, bright. That's what survival looks like sometimes. Not running, not screaming, just whispering back into the dark, still here. It happened at the gas station, middle of the afternoon. I was filling up my car, half listening to a podcast, when I turned, and there he was. Older, grayer, but still him. I froze. For a second, everything inside me went white, like my brain had pulled the fire alarm and evacuated the building. He didn't see me, didn't recognize me, just walked past, bought gum, left. And that was it. No confrontation, no justice, no scream, just a moment mine. I got back in the car, turned the key, sat still for a long time. Then I laughed. I don't know why, it just spilled out. Not joy, not mockery, relief, not because he was harmless, but because he was small. He used to feel like a shadow the size of the sky. Now he was just a man buying gum on a Tuesday. After that gas station moment, I expected something big to change. It didn't. There was no movie scene transformation, no triumphant music, just me back home eating leftovers and folding laundry. But something had shifted, subtle, quiet, like a door inside me creaked open an inch. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space, room to breathe, room to be. I stopped needing noise to drown out the past. I let it echo and noticed it was growing softer, not gone, never gone, but manageable. That's what healing looks like sometimes. Not fireworks, not epiphanies, just a quiet evening where you catch yourself laughing and realize you forgot to be afraid. And that realization, that's its own kind of miracle. I didn't trust myself for a long time. Not with directions, not with people, not even with small things like locking the door or picking out a movie. I second-guessed everything. What if I missed something again? What if I let danger in and smiled while doing it? But over time, little things started to shift. I caught myself walking alone at dusk, not recklessly, just calmly. I ordered takeout without triple-checking the windows. I laughed without flinching at shadows. It was slow. So slow I almost didn't notice. But one night I looked in the mirror, really looked, and thought, she's still in there. Not the same. Older, wiser, a little worn, but still me. And for the first time in years, I didn't look haunted. I looked whole, maybe cracked in places, but whole. And that felt like coming home. There was a time I couldn't even hear myself think. It was like my inner voice had been muffled under layers of fear, doubt, and pretending. But lately I've started hearing her again. She's quiet, sure, not the booming kind of voice that commands a room, but she's steady. She tells me when something feels right, or wrong, or beautiful. She tells me to rest, to breathe, to leave when I need to. And I'm learning to listen, not perfectly. Sometimes the old noise creeps back in, the what if you're wrong and you're overreacting again kind of noise. But now I answer back, not out loud, just firmly. I'm allowed to protect myself. I'm allowed to be wrong and still be okay. I'm allowed to leave before it's too late. That's not fear, that's wisdom, and it's mine now. I used to think strength meant pretending it didn't happen, pushing through, smiling wider, laughing louder, Like if I could just be normal enough, I could outrun the shadow. But that wasn't strength. That was survival. And survival is important. Don't get me wrong. It kept me alive. But healing. Healing is different. Healing is letting yourself fall apart in the safety of someone who won't flinch. It's crying in the shower without shame. It's saying no without explanation. It's walking away from people who expect you to shrink to fit their comfort. It's choosing rest over performance. I'm still learning, still unlearning too. But I know this now, strength isn't how loud you roar. It's how gently you return to yourself after the world tried to tear you away. And I'm returning, piece by piece, day by day. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not for listening to me, but for staying with yourself. It's hard, I know, to sit in discomfort, to revisit rooms you thought you locked years ago, to hear echoes and not run. But that's where the power is, in the staying. You don't have to share your story with anyone. You don't owe anyone your pain. But if when you're ready, tell it to someone who's earned the right to hear it. Tell it in pieces. Tell it through metaphors. Tell it in silence even. Just don't bury it so deep that you lose sight of yourself. Because I promise, you're still in there. Not broken, not ruined, just rebuilding. And even that aching, messy process is beautiful. You're beautiful, even here, especially here. A few weeks ago, I saw a hawk. I was sitting on my porch, half asleep in the morning sun, when it swooped down fast, sharp, quiet, and landed on the railing just a few feet from me. We locked eyes, not for long, just long enough for something wordless to pass between us. Then it flew away, no sound, no warning, just gone. But I felt something stir in me, not fear, recognition. That bird didn't ask for permission to take space. It didn't explain its presence. It didn't shrink. It just arrived and left on its own terms. That's what I want now, to live like that. Not cautiously, not apologetically, but fully. Here then, gone then, here again. Unashamed, unhidden, free. I had this dream once. I was walking through a dense forest at night. The trees were taller than skyscrapers, their trunks glowing faintly like veins of light pulsing under bark. I wasn't scared, just aware, alert, like the forest knew me and I knew it. Ahead, a clearing opened up, bathed in soft blue moonlight, and there in the center was a mirror, not a small one, huge, almost the size of a doorway. I walked up and looked in, and for the first time in years, the reflection didn't flinch. She didn't look back at me with fear or shame. She just nodded, like she'd been waiting, like she'd known I'd get there eventually. When I woke up, I cried, not because it was sad, but because it finally felt like I was no longer running from myself. I started writing letters I never send, to the man who followed me, to the girl I was, to the friends who disappeared when I changed, to silence itself. Each one begins the same way. Here's what I couldn't say then, and then I write. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's cruel, sometimes it's nothing more than one line repeated over and over until my hand aches. But afterward I breathe easier, like those words were stones I'd been carrying in my chest and the page was the only place heavy enough to hold them. I keep the letters in a box under my bed. Sometimes I reread them. Sometimes I burn them. But always, always I honor them. Because even words that never reach another soul can be sacred. And because speaking even in secret is still a kind of power. Every month I go back to the woods. Not the same ones, of course, but always woods, always trees, always dirt paths and rustling branches, and the sense that the world doesn't need to be watched to keep spinning. I bring nothing but water and a notebook. I walk until I feel the fear rising, the old phantom panic that says, what if it happens again? And then I sit and I write, not to chase the fear away, but to let it settle, to tell it I see you, but you don't get to drive anymore. The first few times were hard. Every crack of a twig felt like a footstep. Every bird call sounded like breath. But I kept going. And now the forest feels more like a witness than a threat. It holds space for me. And in return, I stay. Just long enough to remember I'm still here. Still safe. Still me. One night it rained so hard the gutters overflowed. I couldn't sleep. So I went outside barefoot, let the storm soak through my clothes' hairskin. I tilted my face up to the sky and stood there, arms limp, heart pounding, like I was waiting for something to strike. But nothing did. No thunderbolt, no collapse. Just rain. Cold. Honest. Cleansing. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to brace for impact. I just existed in the open, in the wild, in the wet. No walls, no armor, no escape plan, just me and the storm. And I realized maybe surviving isn't about outlasting the storm. Maybe it's about learning to stand still in it and feel your own pulse, your own warmth, your own damn heartbeat stubborn and steady. Proof you're still alive. Proof that you're the miracle. Survival isn't a finish line. It's not a ribbon you break through or a medal you hang on the wall. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It doesn't always come with applause. Most of the time it's quiet. It looks like getting out of bed when the weight feels unbearable. It sounds like saying no, even when your voice trembles. It feels like sitting through the panic instead of running from it. It's forgetting to be afraid for a full 30 seconds and realizing that counts. It's breathing through the ache. It's laughing at something dumb on TV and not catching yourself until later. It's forgiving your body for still reacting like you're not safe. It's writing your story even if no one reads it. Especially then. Because survival's about reclaiming what was taken piece by trembling piece until one day you wake up and realize you're no longer surviving. You're living. And that's everything. It wasn't dramatic. No sunrise epiphany, no swelling music. Just me sitting on the back steps with a cup of coffee steam rising, birds bickering in the trees, and that soft hush that only happens early in the morning when the world hasn't fully woken up yet. And I realized I wasn't bracing for anything. Not a sound, not a memory, not a threat. I was just there, breathing, being, not fixing, not analyzing, not preparing, just letting the moment be enough. I didn't even notice the tears until one rolled down and landed on my hand. But they weren't sad. They were grateful, because I finally understood something. Peace doesn't arrive with a parade. It tiptoes in, sits beside you, and if you're quiet enough, still enough, you'll feel it settle into your bones. And you'll know. You made it. These days, I don't explain myself as much. Not out of pride, not out of anger. Just peace. If someone doesn't understand why I leave early, or avoid certain streets, or don't answer text right away, that's okay. I'm not here to make sense to people who haven't lived my story. I'm here to live it better. To write new chapters, to be soft with people who deserve softness, to love like I'm not afraid to lose again, to make art that no one sees, to laugh at my own jokes, to cry in the middle of the grocery store if I need to exist fully without shrinking, because that's the gift, not just survival, but wholeness, freedom, and the quiet joy of finally being your own home. That's what I fought for. That's what I won. And no one can take that from me. If I could go back just once and speak to the girl I used to be, I wouldn't give her warnings. I wouldn't tell her how bad it gets, or who to avoid, or what to do differently. She wouldn't listen anyway. She was too full of hope, too sure she could fix things. But I'd sit with her, quietly. And when she finally looked at me, eyes tired, heart fraying, I'd say this: you don't have to earn your safety. You don't have to apologize for what someone else did. You don't have to stay just because you promised you would. You are not hard to love. You were never too much. You don't have to bleed to be worthy. And then I'd hold her, not to take away the pain, but to let her know that one day, someday, she'd make it out. And not just alive, but whole and happy and free. Love didn't save me. That's the truth. It wasn't someone else's arms that pulled me out. It wasn't a soulmate or a rescue or some movie scene moment where everything changed because of one person showing up. It was me, bleeding, crawling, screaming inside and still moving forward. But love did come. Later, quieter. Not like thunder, more like rain after drought. Not to rescue, but to witness. To sit with me in the silence. To ask, what do you need instead of, let me fix you? To see the scars and not flinch. That kind of love, the kind that doesn't demand healing to begin, is rare. But it exists. And when it finds you, you'll know. Because it won't feel like being swept away. It'll feel like being returned. To yourself. To peace. To home. People used to call me a victim. Whisper it sometimes. Like it was a title too fragile to speak aloud. But that word never fit right. It felt small, narrow, like it reduced everything I survived into one moment, one choice, one label. But I'm not a victim. I'm not even just a survivor. I'm a storyteller. And this is my story. Not just the part where it broke, not just the pain, but the parts where I rebuilt, where I planted something new in the ashes, where I laughed again louder than before, where I found people who didn't flinch when I said the word trauma out loud, where I danced barefoot in the kitchen and forgot for a whole song that I was ever afraid. That's the story I choose now, not the one they gave me. The one I wrote with shaking hands and still finished, and I'll keep writing because I'm still here and the story isn't over. So if you're still listening, really listening, then let me say this. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not dramatic or weak or too sensitive. You're human. You're allowed to feel the weight of what happened. You're allowed to grieve the version of you that didn't know how dark the world could be. But you're also allowed to hope, to want more, to believe that softness isn't a liability, it's a strength, that you don't have to toughen up to be taken seriously, that you don't have to smile to make others comfortable, that healing isn't a straight line or a perfect arc or a checklist. It's messy, it's nonlinear, it's yours, and no matter how long it takes, you deserve it, all of it. Love, peace, safety, joy. And may you find them or build them piece by piece, like I did, like we all can. The long pause. That's all. You can rest now. You're safe here, and I'll be here if you ever want to come back. Good night.